Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, roundtable podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets.
What's up, Mets fans? And of course, what's up, baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get started talking about the top 20 free agent predictions, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you're enjoying my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys, so free agency begins tonight at 5 p.m. And we know about teams like the New York Mets, the New York Yankees, a lot of teams that are trying to get better, teams that had successful seasons are trying to be big-time contenders. You have the Dodgers winning the World Series. You have the Yankees falling short. A lot of teams need to improve their team, and it usually starts with free agency. The big boys are out there for the taking. It's going to cost a lot of money, but they definitely have a chance to get those players. And 5 p.m. today kicks it off, guys. So we are going to get started with all 25 on the MLB top 25 free agents, right? A couple are already either extended or already opted into their contract, so they're going to be off the board. So I had to add a couple of others that weren't on the list. But let's get started, guys. And first, we're going to start with the former Philly, Carlos Estevez. Carlos Estevez was a really good pitcher in the bullpen for the Angels. He pitched extremely well for the Phillies until he got to the NLDS against the New York Mets and gave up that huge home run to Francisco Lindor. But I do think he's going to be a Kansas City Royal, and I think his term of contract is going to be around 3 years, $47 million. Next, we're going to go with another bullpen arm for the New York Yankees. That is Clay Holmes. He was the closer for multiple years, including this year, until he got knocked for Luke Weaver. And now, what does he look for in the market as a closer or just a reliever? You would think his agent will go for closer type money, even though he was, for the most part, a successful closer. He just didn't have what it took to keep the job with the New York Yankees. So I think Clay Holmes is staying in the AL East, going to the Baltimore Orioles with a 4-year, $45 million deal. Next up is one of the best lefty bullpen arms on the market, Tanner Scott. This is a guy that is probably definitely looking for closer money, but there is some teams that might not want to pay for closer money if they're not going to be the closer. But there's a team out there that I believe is willing to do that, and that is the New York Mets. I believe the New York Mets are going to sign Tanner Scott and have that dominant lefty in the bullpen with 4 years, $60 million. Next up is Blake Treinen, world champion Blake Treinen of the Los Angeles Dodgers. A really good season, basically was a closer for the Dodgers. I think he's going to get a 1-year deal worth $8 million for the Chicago Cubs. Next up, a very solid starting pitcher that was traded at the trade deadline, Yusei Kikuchi. He's another one where he's up there in age, but he's just that sneaky lefty with a whole bunch of motions and different pitches. He's a guy that can be sought after from a lot of teams that can fill out the middle of your rotation, if not the back end of your rotation. Yusei Kikuchi going to the Washington Nationals, 3-year, $50 million. Next up, another former Yankee, Alex Verdugo. Now, Alex Verdugo had a solid season, but if you listen to a lot of Yankee fans, think that he didn't have as good as the season that some have thought, and I don't think he's going back to the Yankees. I think Dominguez is going to be the outfielder of the future for the Yankees, and Verdugo has no spot in the Yankees outfield. So Alex Verdugo going to the Minnesota Twins for 2 years, $26 million. Another very interesting utility guy that can play multiple positions, Jurickson Profar, a guy that performed very well for the San Diego Padres. I have a feeling the Padres might bring him back, but I think the Philadelphia Phillies are going to snag him for 2 years, $30 million. Next up, another good, solid signing by the Boston Red Sox in Tyler O'Neill. He is a guy that, is dangerous. And I think this is a guy that is going to stick around with the Red Sox for 3 years, $50 million. An infielder who was hurt at the end of the season, Ha-Seong Kim, is a guy that I believe can be very, very interesting for certain teams that might be looking for a utility infielder along with Jurickson Profar. But Ha-Seong Kim, I think he's going to go to Boston for a 2-year deal. Next up, the well-hated first baseman / DH that is much hated in Queens, Rhys Hoskins. Where is Rhys Hoskins going to go? Well, you know what, guys? I think he's going to stay with the Brewers. He had a really good season. I do think he is a guy that can get under a lot of teams' skin, but I do think Rhys Hoskins is a guy that can prevent a lot of value to a team like the Brewers, who are not looking to spend a ton of money on like a Christian Walker or a Pete Alonso. So I think when it comes to Rhys Hoskins, he's going to stay with the Brewers for 2 years, $26 million. And now we're going to get to the next first baseman that I just spoke about, Christian Walker. What a season he had for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But he's up in the mid-30s. You know, he's not one of those free agents that are, you know, in 29, 30 years old. So he's not going to get, I don't believe he's going to get that long-term deal, like 5, 6, 7-year deal, as some Mike Pete Alonso would probably get. Christian Walker, I do wonder where he's going to go. I really do, but I'm going to say I think it's going to be the Seattle Mariners. I think the Seattle Mariners are looking to make some big splashes here. I think they're going to lose out on Pete Alonso, but I do think they're going to get a first baseman in Christian Walker for 3 years, $75 million. Next up, Nathan Eovaldi, a guy that, you know, World Series champion with the Rangers, a really good pitcher. He can be at, you know, probably a solid number 2 for most teams. What is a team that is losing some starters here that I think, you know, are still going to be contenders? That's the Atlanta Braves. And they love these 1-year guys that can have high ceilings with not at a very, very high cost. And Nathan Eovaldi is one of these guys. I think he's going to get a 3-year, $75 million deal from the Atlanta Braves. Next up, Walker Buehler, world champion Walker Buehler from the Los Angeles Dodgers. I do not think that with all the injuries that the starting rotation had for the Dodgers are going to get a lot of those guys back. I don't know if there's a spot for Walker Buehler. And I feel like Walker Buehler is going to get like a Luis Severino type of deal, for like a prove-it type of deal, right? He came back later in the season this year because of the injury, and I think this year is kind of a prove-it year going forward for 2025. I think the New York Mets are going to sign Walker Buehler for a 1-year, $13 million deal, similar to what the Mets did with Luis Severino. Next up, Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber, another very, very good pitcher, but hasn't been healthy. But there is desperate teams out there that's probably going to need a top-of-the-rotation type of guy. And I think Shane Bieber is going to get paid as much as some people, you know, believe because just of injury. The talent is still there. I think a healthy Shane Bieber could be one of the best pitchers in baseball. I think the Cubs are going after him. I think they're going to give him a 5-year, $100 million deal. Next up, another World Series champion, Jack Flaherty, who the Dodgers traded for from the Tigers. I think is going to remain in his hometown with his favorite team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, for 4 years, $70 million. Next up, another former Yankee, Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres is so much talent, but he is a dummy when it comes to the mental part of baseball. Makes so many mistakes. He had a very good postseason offensively, but it's always that lackadaisical, lazy attitude that he has on the field that always worries me. You know, for my team, I wonder if other teams are going to look at that too. And even the Yankees, who would probably want a 26, 27-year-old kid who, you know, has established himself in Major League Baseball, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to pay him, and they're probably not. So where is he going to go? What is the team that lost out on multiple guys last year that needs more talent, that's probably having their final season ready to contend before they make decisions on their high-valued guys that were top prospects at one point? And that's the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they're going to go hard after Gleyber Torres. He's going to stay in the AL East for 7 years, $150 million. Next up, another World Series champion, Teoscar Hernandez. I think the Dodgers are not letting him go. I think he loved it there. I think the Dodgers, I mean, what he did in the World Series was absolutely amazing. I think the Dodgers are going to retain him. I don't think they're going to go win that bid for Juan Soto. I don't think they're going to go after Santander. So I think Teoscar Hernandez is the next best thing. And why not keep the guy to help you win a world championship? 4 years, $80 million to the Dodgers. Next up, Willy Adames. What a season, a career year basically for Willy Adames for the Milwaukee Brewers. We know the Milwaukee Brewers are not going to spend that type of money to retain him, which is always silly to me. Why don't you want a guy that basically got you to the playoffs and was one of your best players? But again, these small market teams seem to not care about winning as much as, you know, they portray. Willy Adames, I think he's going to the San Francisco Giants. 6 years, $145 million. The Giants need to make splash here. It's been very hard for them to get top free agents to San Francisco because all the craziness that's going on in California with the taxes and the living situations and all that stuff like that. I think Willy Adames is going to go there. I think they're going to outbid every single body for Willy Adames. He's going to the Giants. Next up, Alex Bregman. This is a very, very interesting guy. The guy's 31 years old. This guy seemed like he tailed off a little bit, but he's still a great defender. I think he can be a very excellent offensive player still. He has so much postseason experience, World Series experience that is invaluable to a lot of teams. That's something that you can't get with a lot of players. I think that's valuable to teams. Alex Bregman, I was thinking about the Mets. I was thinking maybe the Phillies would do it, crazily. I know they have their young third baseman, but maybe they're trying to get over that hump. Remember, Phillies lost 3 years in a row, World Series, NLCS, NLDS, the last 3 seasons. They're hanging on that border of, at what point are they going to start breaking it down as well? So you do wonder, where is Alex Bregman going to go? I think he's going to the NL East, but not who you probably think. The Washington Nationals, 6 years, $190 million. That's where I think Alex Bregman's going to go. Next up, Anthony Santander, a guy that I just brought up. He is a guy that has so many options, and there's a lot of teams going to be going after. I think Anthony Santander is that $100 million man. He has had a great season and, a really good outfielder. I think he's a guy that a lot of teams could use. But there's another team that, once again, has lost down a big free agents over the last couple of seasons, and that is the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they're going heavy this year. This is the last season, I think, before they decide to break it up, that they're going to go extremely hard for free agents. And I think Anthony Santander is going to end up in a Blue Jays uniform, 5 years, $100 million. Next up, we're going to get to the big boys of the free agent market, basically the top 5 free agents on the market. First up, we're going to start with Max Fried, the lefty. He's a guy that dealt with injuries the last couple of seasons. He is a guy that could be at the top of anybody's rotation, definitely an ace, but injury concerns is worrisome if you really look at his overall season. The last couple of seasons, the Braves aren't going to re-sign him. I'm pretty sure of that, right? He is a West Coast guy. A lot of people are talking about him with the Dodgers, but I don't think he's going to go there. I think a team that desperately needs starters and desperately needs pitching is the Baltimore Orioles. I think they are going to lose Corbin Burns, and why not replace him with a Max Fried who could be at the top of your rotation? And I think he's going to the Baltimore Orioles, 6 years, $185 million. Next up, Blake Snell. Blake Snell, a guy who could be very frustrating during the season. He is basically a 5-inning pitcher. Occasionally will go deep into a ball game, but very rarely. But he's an extremely good pitcher. What is the value of a guy who's a really good pitcher, but usually only gives you 5 innings and not much more than that? It's a dangerous game to play for a lot of teams that are looking for, an ace or a co-ace. How much are you willing to spend? You got to look for desperate teams. And the San Francisco Giants had him. They're already accustomed to him. They're a team that, again, can't get a lot of free agents to San Francisco. I think they're going to retain Blake Snell, and I think they're give him a big-time contract. 6 years, $200 million. Next up, Corbin Burns, one of the biggest pitching free agents on the market. He's going to be very competitive to get, for sure. He's going to get a big-time contract, long-term contract. I do think there's probably about a handful of teams that probably could afford him, or most Major League Baseball teams can afford him. But, it's going to be the big market teams that are probably going to be going after him. I have to go with my New York Mets. I think because David Stearns is a guy who knows him very well, and Corbin Burns has a relationship with David Stearns, I think David Stearns is not going to let Corbin Burns get away. He is a guy that throws 160-plus innings a year. He is a guy that can definitely be the co-ace with Kodai Senga, and I think David Stearns is going to go heavy after Corbin Burns. 8 years, $250 million to the New York Mets. Next up, Pete Alonso, every Mets fan's favorite player. Pete Alonso is a homegrown guy. He's a guy that talked about wanting to be here. I think the Mets do want him here, but I don't think it's going to happen, guys. I think he's going to get the offer that he's been looking for, and that is the $200 million threshold. I don't think the Mets are going to go there. I think some teams are going to shy away who probably want him. Similar, like the New York Yankees. I think they're going to shy away from giving a guy like Pete Alonso $200 million. But here's a desperate team that has been talked about for 3+ years about trying to trade for or get Pete Alonso. And that is the Chicago Cubs. I think he's going to go to Chicago, to the north side of Chicago for 7 years, $200 million. The mark where I think Pete Alonso wants that $200 million mark. And I don't know if the New York Mets are willing to go there. So Pete Alonso to the Chicago Cubs. Last but not least, the best free agent guy on the market, Mr. Juan Soto. Had an outstanding season with the Yankees, World Series champion, basically carried the Yankees to the World Series along with Giancarlo Stanton. I don't think he's going back to the Yankees, guys. I don't think Hal Steinbrenner is going to cough up the tremendous amount of money, right? Apparently the Dodgers are in it. We know the Mets are in it. There might be another team in it, like the Blue Jays. They're going to keep on pumping up the price, especially with Scott Boras. He loves to do that. Teams are going to start pumping up the price. I think the Yankees are going to fall out of it if it goes over $600 million. I think they're going to fall well short of the biggest offer. And let's make no mistake about it, guys. Juan Soto is going to take the highest offer. If you don't believe that, then why didn't he sign an extension with the Nationals for near $500 million? Why didn't he have more negotiations with the Yankees to have an extraordinary offer? Why? Because he knows he's going to get an outstanding contract from somebody. There's going to be other teams outbidding each other back and forth. That's only going to raise his price. He's going to the highest bidder, guys. Juan Soto is not getting away from the New York Mets. Steve Cohen has talked about it. They talked about 2025 as the big spending year. They are not letting Juan Soto get away from them. He is coming to Queens wearing the orange and blue, playing at Citi Field for a very, very long time. I'm going 12 years, $660 million. That's around $55 million a year, guys. Make no mistake about it. Steve Cohen is going to do everything he can to get Juan Soto. Unless the team finds a way to outbid him, which I don't think is going to happen, Juan Soto is going to be a New York Met. 12 years, $660 million. All right, guys, that is the top 25 free agent prediction for Major League Baseball. Let me know in the comments, guys. Do you agree with my decision, my projections, my predictions for where the players are going to go and the contracts? Or do you differ from what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments, guys. Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button if you're enjoying my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live. You guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of my predictions. Everybody have a great day. As always, Mets fans, let's go Mets and enjoy free agency at 5 p.m., guys. See you next time.